Tonight, when the sun goes down, you'll probably reach over without even thinking, flip a single light switch, and your entire room will instantly fill with light. But have you ever stopped to wonder, what if that switch had never been invented? What if every single night became so unbelievably dark that you couldn't even see your own hand stretched out in front of your face? For millions of years, that wasn't a nightmare. That was normal life. Every one of your ancestors lived in that world. No electricity, no streetlights, and for most of human history, not even candles. Just endless darkness, a sky full of stars, and one small fire. The moment that fire died, death could be waiting just a few steps away. But here's the question almost nobody asks. What did humans actually do all night before electricity existed? The answer doesn't just change the way you think about history, it changes the way you understand sleep, the human brain, and even what it truly means to be human. To answer that question, we have to start with fire, because fire was the invention that made nighttime survival possible in the first place. Some of the earliest and strongest evidence that humans learned to control fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, dating back roughly 1 million years. But fire did far more than keep people warm. It completely reshaped the human day. Before fire, our ancestors lived much like other primates. As soon as the sun disappeared below the horizon, the day was essentially over. People climbed into trees or searched for the safest place they could find, and stayed as still as possible. Moving through the darkness wasn't brave. It was deadly. Human eyes are poorly adapted for seeing at night. Predators like leopards, hyenas, and wolves had a massive advantage. While they could hunt with remarkable efficiency in the dark, humans could barely see what was only a few feet away. Then, everything changed. A single campfire created a circle of safety, lighting an area roughly 30 feet across. Most large predators avoided that glowing ring, and stepping outside it often meant risking your life. This isn't just speculation. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have repeatedly documented that people who wander away from the fire after dark face the greatest danger from wild animal attacks. But the most important gift fire gave humanity wasn't just protection. It gave us something we'd never had before: extra time. Before fire, useful hours ended with sunset. During the summer, people might have around 12 hours of daylight. In winter, sometimes only 8. Then fire quietly added another 2 to 4 productive hours to every single day. That may not sound like much, but over thousands of generations, those extra hours helped transform our species forever. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a landmark study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences after spending years with the Jew/Hawansi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, one of the world's best-known hunter-gatherer societies. What she discovered was fascinating. During the day, nearly 80% of conversations were focused on practical survival, planning hunts, gathering food, sharing supplies, solving disputes, and making decisions that kept the group alive. Daytime wasn't for entertainment, it was for work. Survival came first. But once people gathered around the fire after sunset, something remarkable happened. The entire mood of human conversation changed. Around 81% of nighttime conversations revolved around stories, not survival. People shared tales of distant lands, unforgettable journeys, mysterious legends about the creation of the world, and jokes that left the entire camp laughing together. According to anthropologist Polly Wiesner, these nightly conversations around the campfire may have been where human culture was truly born. That fire wasn't just a source of warmth. It was humanity's very first theater, its first classroom, and perhaps even its first church. For the first time, people weren't focused only on surviving the next day. They began imagining things that weren't physically in front of them: myths, beliefs, dreams, and possibilities. In many ways, this was the moment we truly became human. But storytelling wasn't the only extraordinary thing happening at night. Scientists have uncovered another surprising truth over the past few decades, one that completely changes the way we think about sleep. Believe it or not, your body may not have originally been designed to sleep for 8 uninterrupted hours like most people do today. In 2001, historian Roger Ekirch published groundbreaking research that transformed our understanding of human sleep. He spent 16 years examining thousands of historical records, and what he discovered appeared again and again in prayer books, court documents, personal diaries, medical texts, private letters, and even ancient works like Homer's Odyssey. The same 2 phrases kept showing up: first sleep and second sleep. Before the Industrial Revolution, people across much of the world didn't sleep through the entire night. Instead, they usually went to bed shortly after sunset, slept for about 4 hours, naturally woke up around midnight, stayed awake for 1 or 2 peaceful hours, and then returned to bed for another 4-hour sleep until morning. This wasn't insomnia. It wasn't considered a sleep disorder. For thousands of years, it was simply the normal way humans slept. So what did people do during those quiet hours in the middle of the night? Almost anything. A French physician physician in the 16th century even recommended that married couples use this period to conceive children, believing the body and mind were in their best condition at that time. Others visited neighbors, reflected on their dreams while they were still fresh, wrote in journals, prayed, or simply lay quietly in the darkness, thinking. One medical manual from the 1500s described the period between first and second sleep, known as the watch, as the ideal time for studying, deep reflection, and quiet contemplation, when the mind was calm and the entire world seemed perfectly still. For centuries, historians had read these references without realizing what they actually meant. Many translators assumed first sleep was simply a figure of speech because they couldn't imagine that people in the past slept differently from us. Modern assumptions were so deeply ingrained that some translations quietly reshaped the original meaning to fit today's idea of a normal night's sleep. Then, modern science confirmed what history had been saying all along. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health conducted a fascinating experiment. He placed volunteers in an environment without any artificial light for an entire month. Every night, they experienced 14 hours of darkness, the kind of natural light cycle our ancestors would have lived with before electric lighting. Within just a few weeks, every participant's body returned to the same ancient sleep pattern on its own. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of calm wakefulness, then another 4 hours of sleep before sunrise. No one instructed them to do it. Their bodies simply remembered. It was as if an ancient biological program, buried beneath centuries of artificial light, had quietly switched back on. Even more astonishing, researchers measured the participants' hormone levels during those midnight waking hours. Their brains released unusually high amounts of prolactin, a hormone associated with deep relaxation, meditation, and the peaceful state that often follows intimacy. Participants consistently described feeling unusually calm, reflective, and deeply at peace. That quiet period in the middle of the night wasn't empty time. It was a completely different state of human consciousness, one that most people in the modern world may never experience. So what brought this remarkable state of human consciousness to an end? The answer is surprisingly simple: artificial light. During the 1600s, cities began installing street lamps. Paris became one of the first major cities to illuminate its streets in an effort to reduce crime and improve public safety. London soon followed. For the first time in history, the night was slowly becoming a place people could move through instead of fear. Then came inexpensive candles. In the 1800s, gas lamps spread across growing cities. And finally, in 1879, Thomas Edison helped bring the practical electric light bulb into everyday life. Within just a few generations, the kind of night humanity had known for hundreds of thousands of years simply disappeared. Even the English word curfew tells part of this story. It comes from the old French phrase couvre-feu, which literally means cover the fire. In medieval towns, a bell would ring every evening, signaling people to cover or extinguish their household fires. This wasn't only about preventing fires, it reflected something much deeper. Night was supposed to be dark. For most of history, nighttime was meant for rest. Walking through the streets after dark was often viewed as suspicious or even dangerous. In many European cities, going outside at night without carrying a lantern was actually against the law. The darkness belonged to thieves, wild animals, and the supernatural, at least in the minds of many people. Then, humanity conquered the night. We flooded it with light, and we called it progress. But what did we lose in return? Today, the average person spends 7 to 8 hours every evening surrounded by artificial light. The blue light coming from phones, computers, tablets, and televisions suppresses the production of melatonin, the hormone that tells your body it's time to sleep.
Your brain doesn't truly understand the difference between the sun and a bright light bulb. When your phone shines into your eyes at 11 o'clock at night, your brain interprets that signal as daylight. Melatonin production is delayed, sleep becomes fragmented, and a biological rhythm that took millions of years to evolve is quietly thrown out of sync. Researchers have discovered something equally remarkable. People who spend just 1 week camping without artificial light often experience a dramatic reset of their internal clock. Their melatonin begins rising close to sunset again, about 2 hours earlier than before. In other words, it takes only a week of natural darkness for an ancient biological program to begin waking up once more. We didn't simply change the time we go to bed. We may have erased an entire state of human experience. That peaceful, deeply reflective period between first sleep and second sleep has almost vanished from modern life. In its place, we often find insomnia, anxiety, and restless nights. But what if we've misunderstood those midnight awakenings? What if waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning isn't always a sign that something is wrong? What if your body is simply remembering the rhythm it followed for hundreds of thousands of years? Our ancestors lived according to a pattern that modern science is only beginning to understand. They gathered around fires. They shared stories campfires that shaped cultures and civilizations. They slept in two natural phases with a quiet window for reflection between them. They lived beneath skies so dark that the Milky Way wasn't a rare sight. It was simply part of everyday life. And when they awoke in the middle of the night, they didn't reach for a phone. They lay quietly in the darkness, reflecting on their lives, their dreams, and the sunrise that would soon arrive. Perhaps the greatest cost of the light switch wasn't the darkness it eliminated. It was the ancient part of ourselves that disappeared along with it. And the real tragedy is that most of us never even realized it was gone.